Hey, Ned Lamont, nice to see you.
Nice to see
Yeah, you
you.
look nice and comfortable.
Beautiful night. Right?
Just talking about that.
Hello. Hi, Ned Lamont.
Goodman, nice
Jamie, nice to see you. Hello. Following you.
Hey, thank you guys so much for coming, and for those of you I know, thanks for coming, and everybody I called out of the blue, thanks for coming. And obviously, thank you so much, Annie and Steve, who can't be here today, for hosting us at your amazing house here. It's a great day, we lucked out. And we fit so many people, and I'm glad to see everybody here. Thank you so much to my parents for helping us out with organization, things like that, and for videotaping. And before I introduce Ned, if I could, the first time I heard about Ned Lamont and the campaign, it was this March, and I was in Washington, D.C. I was shooting a documentary film, and it just so happened the day that I stumbled upon Lamont Blog was the day I was scheduled to interview Senator Lieberman. And I read it, and that's when I first learned about the campaign, and I was just the cameraman, I wasn't really the director, so I had a little more leeway, and being kind of, I guess at that point, naive person I went in there and said, so how about this Lamont guy? You guys worried about this? And the room went totally silent. And Lieberman didn't say a word, and the press people didn't say a word, and the director who was there with me quickly changed the subject. And I didn't know at the time, but I've come to know that they were afraid of what's become an unbelievable firestorm across the state, and it's really democracy knocking at Lieberman's door here. And he doesn't have the right to this seat. It's us who choose who's in that seat. And yeah. And he's a Democrat. And if he wants to run as a Democrat, he needs our blessing because this is America. And I think it's time that we give him a little wake-up call, and that's going to be hopefully Ned Lamont. And I think not only is he going to win the primary, but I am confident that he's going to go all the way to the general election. So, folks. Next senator from Connecticut, Ned Lamont.
Hey, Annie, thank you very much. And Chris, I got to tell you, one of the things I'm really proud about with this campaign is we've got a lot of people who've been sitting on the sidelines for a long time who didn't really want to get involved in politics, or maybe thought they were too young. Chris has just graduated from high school. He's 17 years old. He can't even vote. And if we can get more Chris's involved, this is, say it again.
It's my birthday tomorrow.
It's his birthday tomorrow. He will be able to vote. I gotta tell you, I mean, we have thousands of people across the state who have registered to be Democrats in the last couple of months. And thousands more, I think, who have been sitting on the sidelines who have said there's no big difference between the two parties. And thanks to people like you, Chris, I think we're beginning to tell people that there's some real differences. Chris also mentioned the blogs and Lamont blog. Let me tell you what that meant to me. When I threw my hat into the ring, last January and said I'm thinking about doing this, where there was a flurry of press, and they said not much name recognition, up against a 3-term incumbent, and he's got millions of dollars in the bank. It's impossible to do, but give it a shot, young man. Okay, middle-aged guy. And then I didn't hear from him again. And it's these things called blogs. At 52, I didn't know all that much about the blogs, but we said, hey, look, we were invited to go talk up at Naples Pizza in New Haven. And these blogs said, look, we don't know much about Ned Lamont, but we know a heck of a lot about Joe Lieberman, so why don't you show up and see what he's all about? And all of a sudden, instead of having 15 or 20 people there were 120 people hanging from the rafters, and it seemed to me that the people in Connecticut, and particularly the Democrats, wanted to have a conversation. They wanted to have a conversation about what type of a party the Democrats are, what do we stand for, what type of a country we want, and how do we get there. And it was thanks to a lot of grassroots energizers like Chris and some of these blogs that all of a sudden across the state we have people turning out, and I hope they turn out on August 8th because that's how we can make a real difference together.
About some of the social issues on which Lieberman is more conservative than many of us would like. For instance, gay marriage, choice issues.
Social issues, choice, gay marriage, and the such, where Senator Lieberman is much more conservative, as you might say. Look, I think that the federal government is intruding into our private lives in ways that the founding fathers never anticipated. One of the things that got me into this race was the Terry Schiavo case, as regards a social issue. I think most of you probably remember that case a year and a half ago. That's the last place I want my federal government going. And it took George Bush a week to leave his vacation compound down there in Crawford to go see the poor people standing on rooftops in New Orleans following Katrina, but he flies back in the middle of the night to have the federal government and Congress intervene in the most personal and private of decisions. You want your priest, you want your rabbi, you want your doctor, but you don't want Tom DeLay there in that room with you. And it was Senator Lieberman said, of course, in questions of life and death, you want the federal government to be involved in a case like that. And I thought he was so wrong on that. I look at Judge Alito, and as I described before, I see fundamentally how I think that tilts the balance of the Supreme Court. Also, just in terms of the wiretaps, in terms of a president that says that he's above the law. I don't know about you, but I was sort of sympathetic to Russ Feingold. Russ Feingold's a guy that stood up. Somebody's sympathetic to Russ Feingold. Look, we can have a debate whether these wiretaps are legal or illegal. I can tell you the American Bar Association says they're illegal. We had a FISA court system. You're supposed to go through that system. I can tell you that Senator Lieberman says they were illegal. And if you want to have a debate, let's have the hearings in the U.S. Senate and do that. Otherwise, I think we should hold the president accountable there. And I thought censure was a short, immediate remedy that would have said, what you're doing is against the law, and it's not going to be tolerated by the American people. You mentioned gay marriage. Let me say one other thing there. You know, I was just shocked that when President Bush goes to the Rose Garden, I think he's got something really important to say. You know, maybe it's a plan for universal health care, or a plan to start bringing our brave troops home from Iraq. Instead, he goes to the Rose Garden, stands up and says he's going to support a constitutional amendment that tells churches who they can marry and who they can't marry. And I think that is so wrong. Frankly, I'm proud of Connecticut. I'm proud that Connecticut is first state in the union to allow civil unions amongst gay people, and I'll be proud when Connecticut is one of the first states in the country that allows gay marriage.